Greetings, pilgrims. Welcome to another episode of the Polygon Pilgrimage, and today we are continuing with our Battle Pass series. I've got a little bit of fanciness for you. I am working on the code for the previews here, and that's kind of taking a little bit, but I wanted to show you some of the fanciness we can do together while you wait for me to finish all the math. Okay, so the two main things we're talking about today are the background, as you can see, has gotten a facelift with a very cool pattern, and it's kind of floating along like that. And then we have this little area here, and if I click and drag, look at this. So we have a rotating preview here, and I can click and drag. Now, a couple things I can do here. I can click and drag one direction, I can stop. I can click and drag the other direction, I can stop. I can also click and drag, and I can change direction while still holding on to the mouse. You can even give them a little wiggle there, and if the character had, hair or like some kind of cloth, it would actually respond to physics because we are actually rotating the object. So we're going to talk about today how we do this and how we do this. So let's get started. Okay, so for our scrolling background texture thing, it's really 3 images and 1 script. So we go over here and let's expand this. You'll see there, you may have caught a glimpse of what's really happening. Look at that, this big item here. So the main thing is the screen background is this big image here, and all that is really just a gradated texture. And I have it here, and of course all of these files that I show here will be provided in the description in the download link, so you'll be able to get these too. And you just place it where you like. I put it all the way to the edges and just kind of filled this nice gradient. And it's a raw image, so you just go under your canvas, right click, UI, and then say raw image, and then set it up with however your numbers work out to go all the way to the edges, and then fill in the value. So like this guy. So you go all the way to the edges there, and then fill in, just click and drag, and there you go. All right. Next up, we have the hex pattern. So this is another object, and you're going to have to change this based upon the size of your screen, but I made mine, big square like this, and then I rotated it a bit, so your numbers in here may vary. Don't worry about that. It's all personal preference as to the exact angle you want it to be at. So again, it's a raw image as well, so then you just click and drag and put it on here, and you do have this script. You can click and drag and put it on here. Now, my current settings are as follows. For the speed, it's at negative 0.001, and the drift is negative 0.002. So if we take a look at that, and I just hit play, just focus on the background. So you see it's kind of just slowly drifting down, and it's kind of this way in general. Okay, so you can change that up. You can change whatever you like. If you change these numbers, it's going to go crazy. And then the background image here is actually this image. So it's a little confusing, but we're feeding itself into here. So the background image is the image it's referring to. You just go ahead and put that in there. Now, a couple of things to take into account. This image does need to have the tiling set up to it. So if we go here to my images, and if we find it in here, let's see, what did we call that? That was called, well, I can tell you by looking right here, hex pattern. It's called BP patterns, base color. So let's look in here. So BP patterns, base color, this right here, there he is. So in the settings here, what I've done is it's a default 2D color art sRGB. The alpha source is from grayscale, that way we can see through it. And then wrap mode here I've set to repeat. And then in the default settings here under compression, I always set it to none, just so that it's as high a quality as possible. So make sure that's set when you bring the image into your project. Then when you bring it into here, this will all be nicely, and the repeat is the important part. So if I uncheck this to maximize on play, let's take a look at what's happening here. If I hit play now, with this selected for the hex pattern, we'll see that it's scrolling, and because it's set to repeat, it will repeat at the edges. So if I were to increase this, you can see it go a little faster. You can see what's happening there as it's going off the edges. And what's actually happening is this speed and drift are affecting the UV rect. And UV rect for an image, for a flat texture, is like moving the UVs of this if it were like a 3D model with it put on there. So it's just going to drag, and because we have it set to repeat, it'll repeat the other end, and you never see a difference. So this is a little headache inducing, so maybe not that for your project, but if I just hit stop, it goes back to the value that is preset. Very nice. Okay. Then the next thing we have below that. Now the order of operations here is important because the way Unity renders things, if I'm correct, is from bottom to top. And we'll get to that in a little bit about doing the rotation. So we do need these in this order. So that the gradient is technically on top, of the hex pattern, which is on top of the screen background, because you're kind of in reverse order, you're going up. So think of like the back of the screen is here and your eyeballs are here, so that's the order that it's going to be rendered in, okay? So this gradient is nothing more than a copy of this without the script, and then I just put a different image in here, and I used the image called backdrop, which is one of the items that I have in the list of textures already from the previous episodes. It's used in the backdrop of some of these, so I just put that in there. And the important thing here is that I put the color, the alpha, all the way down to 20, so that it's just a nice little hint. You can see the background there if I turn it on and off, just a little bit of a nice gradation. That's really all it is. Okay, so with that done, let's get on to the fancy stuff. So down here we have this thing called Preview Rotator, and it doesn't really look like anything, but if you zoom in here, we have a couple of new objects. So first we need to create this reward preview area. And if you're following along in the future, you don't have to worry about this, because once the whole prefab is done, this will all be done for you. If you're following along right now, you will have to make these things. I'll go over it as if you're following along right now. If you're from the future, hi, just kind of skip forward, you've already got a prefab. All right, so the reward preview area, and so this is just an empty game object created under our canvas with these settings here. So you can pause the video, take a look, but very briefly, it's got an upper left-hand anchor there, and mine is set to X, Y, and Z of 1103, 253.2, with a width and height of 733.2 and 1112.2. So that's just to get the pivot right here, and then it is this size. There we go. So this is the reward preview area. So this is when we click on an item inside our battle pass, actually just when you hover over it, then the reward preview area will update to show you what the preview is of that reward. Okay? So that's there, and now beneath that in the hierarchy, but remember it's technically on top of it because of the way this whole thing works, is our preview rotator. And this is actually a button. So you see here we have image and button. If you go into the image, we've actually just got it turned with the alpha all the way to 0. And all of these are the same thing. This normal color, highlighted color, all that. We just went in and set the alpha to 0. So it's a giant button that is the whole size of this. We've just turned it completely invisible, basically. We don't want to see the actual button. Now, when you create a button, it will have a child object called text. You can delete that. We don't need that. So I first put this in here, and to get it to be the exact same size as the reward preview area, I put it inside the reward preview area. And then up here in the rect transform, you can click this, and if you hold Alt and Shift, you'll see that you'll get this kind of thing. Arrows plus a little dot in the center, and you click that, and then it'll look like this now, and it will automatically fill to the area that it is a child of. So whatever its parent is, it'll fill that whole volume. So that's how you get something the exact same size. Then all we need on this is our script, our Preview Rotator Manager script. And we're going to talk about the script in just a second, so we'll come right back to that, okay? The last thing that we have set up, because this is going to be our little area where we're going to get the mouse input, the last thing we need is an area that it's actually looking at. So we have this thing called the Reward Preview Setup area. Now if I drop out of 2D mode here, you can see that it's actually way down here beneath all of this. So I'm going to hit F to go focus on that. And what we have here is a little bit of like a little studio here. So all this is, very simply, is an empty game object called character base that is a child of wherever this is in the world, and mine is set to 0, -2000, 0. Character base, there's this cylinder, which I'll update to be fancier, but essentially this is just a cylinder, a little platform for the character to stand on like you saw. There's this object in the middle of that, so it was a child of this, but then I broke it out and just set it all to 0, 0, 0. That is called character holder. And so this is where we're going to spawn the character model for each of the characters that we're looking at, and that's what we're going to actually rotate. Then we have a couple of lights here. So we've got a highlight, which is this light here. Okay, so this is just a light, and you can set this to whatever parameters you like. I like to do soft shadows. I like to just kind of set that up and say, put some nice lighting on it. Then I have a fill light, which is a light from the back to kind of take out the back, those harsh crease shadows. And there is still technically a direct light in the scene because it's there whenever you create a new scene. So mess with these settings as well if you need to, or get rid of that entirely. Then most importantly, we've created this preview camera. So based upon my other settings here of this being at 0, -2000, 0, and the base being at 0, 0, 0 to that, and the cylinder being at 0, 0, 0 to that, and its settings here are scale of 2, scale of 0.025, and a scale of 2, if you're following along. Our preview camera is set to, I have it at XYZ negative 1.95, 0.6, 1.1, and this weird rotations, but rotation of negative 1.437, and a Y rotation of 118.149. Okay? Now, most importantly to this camera is not going to move. We're actually going to rotate the character on the base. But most importantly to this camera is this target texture. We have a render texture in there. So if I go here with my Battle Pass images, you can see down here there is Reward Preview Render Texture. And if I click on this, this is what it looks like. It's a 2D, and I give it a size. You can increase this size to increase your detail. So I put mine at 1024 by 1024. That's literally the only things I changed, okay? And you can see what it looks like right here. Now yours will look black at first because you have to create a new one, and then you go to your camera, and then you're going to click and drag and put it right in there. So now what's happening, if you're not familiar, some of you know this already because we've done the mini-map tutorials and such. What's happening is every frame, this camera is taking what it sees, which is this, and it's overriding this texture, essentially. It's just writing that information to a texture. Okay, well, how does that help us? Well, if we go up to our reward preview area, let's go back to this. Let's go here, 2D. Okay. So our reward preview area over here, essentially each preview is just loading a texture into this area, or several textures. And for some of them, it's going to be the output of that camera. So that's what we're really doing, is we're really seeing an image, but we need to handle the rotation. So how do we do that? So that's what our preview rotator is for. Remember this button that we made here that's invisible? We have this script on it. So now let's take a look at what the script actually does. Okay. So the script for this is as follows. It's only 44 lines. Don't worry about it. We are going to be using some other interfaces here for once. So these are the drag handler and the end drag handler and the begin drag handler. And that's because we're going to get, when do I click the mouse, then I'm dragging, see I'm selecting this text, and then when I release the mouse, that's what these three things are going to say. So we have a couple of variables up front, our start position, our click delta, our rotation speed, and a damp for dampening. So these are all going to be floats. Then we have a transform called preview character transform. Okay. So when we start dragging the mouse, so I've clicked and now I'm going to start dragging. What do I want to do? I want to get the X position within the preview area that we clicked. So start position is equal to input.mouseposition.x. It's not really within the preview area, it's just within the screen. Where did I click and start dragging? So as I drag, I'm going to get the delta between where we clicked and where we are and turn that into a rotation value. So I'm going to say click delta. Delta means the difference between. It's the mathematical term for difference. Input.mouseposition.x minus our start position. So I'm going to say where we started and where I am now. So where I am now minus where I started. So if I started at 0 and I moved 100, my delta is 100 because I've moved 100 from where I started, right? So down here I'm just going to say, hey, if that number is greater than 0, I'm actually going a certain direction on the screen, then take the transform that I gave it, the thing I want to rotate, called .rotate, and I don't want to rotate on the X or the Z, I want to rotate on the Y, which is this. So it's going to be a -1 times my rotation speed times the dampening, okay? Because we got to rotate one direction, we do -1, the other direction we do positive. So again, click delta if it's greater than 0, or rather if it's less than 0, we're going the other direction. So we're going to say, hey, .rotate, and then for the Y value, we're going to do rotation speed times dampening. Now here's the real fancy bit that allows us to do that back and forth in midstream, is right after we evaluate these and do the rotation, I'm going to reset my start position. So this is happening every frame as we're dragging. So I'm resetting my start position, not where I initially clicked up here on the begin drag. That was just to get us going. But now as I'm dragging, so I'm restarting. And the way that we see it is this fluid motion. But it's actually doing it really rapid, like real fast like that. So as you do that, and then you change direction, now your start position is getting recalculated with the delta, and we're getting this positive or negative. That's how we're able to go back and forth. Pretty cool, right? So you don't have to really understand how it works, but I wanted to explain in case you like me are interested and want to learn. Now let's talk about the background scrolling thing. It's really quite simple, but I did forget to look at the code here. So here it is. So two floats, the speed and the drift, and these are the default values, but you can change to whatever you like. And then a reference to whatever the image is that you want to rotate. So we don't even really need this. We're not doing anything on start, so we can just make it even simpler. There you go. It's only 18 lines of code. There you go. So in update, we're just going to say, hey, the offset of our 2D texture is equal to time times speed for both x and y for our vector 2. Then once we have that offset set based upon the time and the speed, now we're going to go in and affect the UV rect and say, hey, the x dot offset is equal to this, and then add our drift, and the y dot offset is negative. And that's it. So that's all that's doing. Very simple. So let's take a look at it all together. Now that we've seen it all together, don't worry about my console errors here. This is the stuff I'm still working on for you guys. So let's hit play and just kind of take a little tour of what we've done today. Okay, so for our background, we have up here. So we have the gradient, and we can show or hide that. There we go. We have the hex pattern, and that's going based upon our scrolling code here. Very cool. And then the screen background is just a little bit of flavor text in the background, so we don't see the default Unity sky there, whatever it is. And then if we go to our preview rotator, remember this is a button, and I'm clicking and holding on this button. And if we come down here, we can see these values change in real time. So as the value is getting smaller, I'm going this way, and as the value gets larger, I'm going this way. And you can see my click delta there. So minus means I'm going that direction. Positive means I'm going this direction. And if you remember, our minus was a negative value multiplied by rotation. And that makes sense because you can see here we're kind of going to his kind of counterclockwise, and now this is more clockwise. And it only works if you click within this area. So I click up here, that's not going to do anything. Down here, nothing. I have to be within that space. So it can be down here or anywhere up to here, as long as I'm in this space. And what's happening is I'm getting a value, and then this preview character transform, I went down here to this, let's see, character holder, this thing. And for the code here, let's see, let's go reward rotator. And what you do is you take this guy and go, boop, put it in there. And now as I click and drag, that's what it's going to rotate. Pretty cool, huh? And that way, any character you put in there, like this guy who happens to be spawned. Now this guy is getting spawned into this place because I am working on these. When you hover over them, they do things, which is why I'm getting errors and such. So for yours, this won't happen. When you run it right now, this guy's not going to appear. So what you're going to have to do for now, just to test this, is just drag and drop your character inside this character holder, okay? And something to take into account as well, one last kind of note here, is if you look carefully at my guy as he's animating, his feet are kind of slipping and sliding a little bit into the surface there. You can see that. So that's going to have to be, make sure your animations are good, the feet remain flat for this kind of thing. So maybe you need a new animation, maybe you need a custom one, whatever. But yeah, you can just click and drag and rotate your characters. How cool is that? So I hope you guys have enjoyed very much. Thank you so much for all the attention with the pilgrimage and with the Discord. You guys have been awesome, and you guys have been really responsive. A couple of things coming up. Yes, we're going to be finishing this up, which is awesome. I'm working on the code. I'm going on vacation tomorrow, so I'm putting this out for you right now so you can have something to play with while I'm gone. And I've been talking with my dev friends, and we are considering having a game jam. So get your questions in, get your comments in, go to the Discord. There is a specific spot to suggest a theme. So please pour it on. Let's see what we can come up with. And it's just a friendly little thing for us all to kind of crunch together and learn, make some new friends, come up with some cool ideas, and, brush up on our skills. That's the whole point of the pilgrimage. So I hope you guys have enjoyed very much. I will see you guys in a week, and I'll be back on this. Check the Discord for updates. And until then, guys, keep practicing, get better, and I'll see you next time as the pilgrimage continues.